Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is going to be my second booktube video. I am going to do a winter TBR and I've got my cozy scenery here. We're right by the fireplace and I want to talk to you about the books I'm going to try to read this month, and hopefully I'll finish all of them and I'll be able to do another video at the end of the month or the beginning of February telling you what I thought of each of these books. Now I want to start off with the book that I'm reading right now, which is called These Violent Delights. Right now, first of all, it's a really good, let me grab my coffee. I have my cozy coffee mug. These Violent Delights, I was going to tell you about why it's a great time to do reading, for me anyway. So in Canada, it's super cold and snowy outside, and I don't mind going out during the day, but at night definitely it's dark and cold, and what better way to spend your time than reading a nice book cozied up by the fire. Also, where I live right now, we're in lockdown or quarantine. I think lockdown is more accurate. Basically, we can't do anything. Everything's closed except for essential services. So another great reason to be reading this winter. So These Violent Delights, the title was what got me right away, because These Violent Delights is a line from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. This is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, very loose retelling. It's actually set in 1920s Shanghai, and there's a lot of different groups vying for power. Shanghai is sort of at a precipice where it's got a lot of history, but there's a lot of new forces pressing on it. So instead of the Montagues and the Capulets, which is the traditional two families in Romeo and Juliet, you have the Kais, which are a family of Chinese, and they have a lot of history in Shanghai. They're sort of the old power, and they're very hierarchical, and Juliet, spelt E-T-T-E, is the heir to the Kai gang or the Kai group and all the wealth. And again, because it's so hierarchical, this is pretty significant. Instead of Tybalt, you have Tyler, who is her cousin, and he's just as much of a jerk in this book as he is in Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare. And then you have the other family or gang, which is the Montagues. So instead of Montague, it's Montagues, and they are Russian. Essentially, what you have is the Bolsheviks or the communists have taken over in Russia. So you have a bunch of exiled Russians who are living in Shanghai, and then you have this formation of this gang led by the Montagues, which is called the White Flowers. The Kai gang is called the Scarlets, and the Russian gang is called the White Flowers. And the White Flowers are in some ways the opposite of the Kais. The Kais are all about where are you in terms of your birth in the family, and then the Montagues, for the most part, are about how good are you at completing tasks, how tough are you, how much willpower do you have, and that's all I'll say about the two families. In the background of the story is a monster that has awoken. In fact, let me read, I'm reaching down for my phone. The first line is, "In glittering Shanghai, a monster awakens." So a monster wakes up, this ancient evil monster, and that's the backdrop for the story. We also have Roma Montague, who had some kind of back in the day love story with Juliet, and this is now present time, and they're both sort of trying to navigate the situation of the monster, of their complex feelings for one another, and of taking over these really large power structures. And that's all I'll say about that book. That's the one I'm reading right now. But I also want to read another book that I have been really, really looking forward to, and that is the fourth book in Saba Tahir's Ember and the Ashes series. So it is just going to be 4 books, and I have been really, really loving this series. It's taken a while for this 4th book to come out. I don't want to tell you what the 4th book's about because that would spoil some of the things that happen in books 1 to 3, but I'll tell you about book 1. So book 1 is called Ember and the Ashes, and in book 1 you have this world based on ancient Rome, but entirely fantasy. And I've really been gravitating towards fantasy because real world events are just so depressing, and I don't want to be reminded of them. So you have this world based on ancient Rome, and it's a world ruled by what's called the Martial Empire. And it's very hierarchical, very militarized, and the main character, Leia, is part of a group that is suppressed or oppressed by the martial leaders. And she lives with her grandparents and her brother, and basically they sell, I think the grandparents were healers, and they sort of sell things on the side in the black market, and they try not to attract the attention of the Martial Empire. And what ends up happening is the brother is apprenticing for someone, and he learns how to build a weapon and essentially gets captured by the Martial Empire. And the rebels, who are resisting the Martial Empire, tell Leia that if she is willing to go and spy at this military school, then they will help get her brother back, or this will help to get her brother back. So that is the scene. And there at the military school, she meets Elias, and he is very reluctant to actually be training at this military school and become this very militarized leader. He has a really challenging relationship with his mother, who is the head of the military school, and he also has a best friend who is in love with him. And that's all I'll say about that story, but it is just amazing. I loved all 3 of the books. All 3 of them are equally good. I didn't feel like, it was a good first one, but then it got really weak. My back is actually getting super hot because normally I wouldn't sit like right in front of the fire. I better speed this up so I don't get like singed on my clothes. I'm like Josephine March, always standing too close to the fire. It's a little woman reference for you. So where am I? So that's Shelter from the Storm is the 4th book, or not Shelter from the Storm, Sky After the Storm. Ember and the Ashes is the 1st book. If you haven't picked these up, please do. You can read all 4 because all 4 are out, and that's great. You won't have to wait at all. I also want to read Twilight Reimagined, Life and Death, which is Stephanie Meyer's. Stephanie Meyer published this for the 10th anniversary, and she switched the genders of Bella and Edward. So we have Bella's going to be Beau, and Edward is going to be Edith, something like that. And so basically you have the male is the human high school student, I'm assuming, and the female is actually the strong, powerful vampire, and we will see how that works out. I just put up on my channel a review of Midnight Sun, so if you're interested, that's the 5th book in the Twilight series, and I give you all my honest thoughts on that book. So Twilight Life and Death Reimagined, or Twilight Reimagined Life and Death, is going to be my 3rd read. And then if I have time, and this is a big if, I would like to finish a book called Longbourn. And Longbourn is, if you're a Pride and Prejudice or Jane Austen fan, it is the story of Pride and Prejudice, but told, focused on the servants who work at the house where the Bennet family lives. So it's very much about the life of the servants. There's still romance. And if I can squeeze it in, I have learned that Bridgerton, which is the Netflix series that just came out this Christmas, Bridgerton is a book series, and I kind of want to know more about what happens with the Bridgerton characters, and I'm kind of curious to see what are the books written like compared to what the show is like. So there is a number of those books. I might try to read The Viscount Who Loved Me, or whatever the title of the second Bridgerton book is. I plan on doing a bunch of videos on my channel about Bridgerton, the TV series. So if you're interested in that, please come back to my channel. Or if you would like to see more videos and get notifications, please subscribe to my channel. I'd love to know if you're reading, and if you're reading, what books you're reading this winter. Thank you so much for watching. This is Ashley saying goodbye, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.